Hi, I'm Conor Svensson, founder and CEO of Web3 Labs, and this is your Week in Blockchain on Monday, the 31st of May 2021. The leaders this week include Goldman Sachs' latest endorsement for Bitcoin, Circle's latest major funding round, Mark Cuban putting his weight behind Polygon's ETH scaling protocol, CBDC activity continues to heat up, more activity around the blockchain for SpaceX, Dfinity's huge developer fund for building on the platform, and Binance's upcoming NFT platform launch. Goldman Sachs has published a report about Bitcoin. In this report, it includes comments from a number of high-profile members, including their hedge of digital assets. Goldman Sachs, you may recall, launched a crypto asset trading desk earlier on this month. Some of the comments, though, included in the report state that Bitcoin is now considered an investable asset in its own right, although it does come with its own idiosyncratic risk. Its activity doesn't behave in the same way that other assets do, so in their view, it's not tightly correlated to other market assets. This is also reflected in terms of what they're seeing with their clients and others trading Bitcoin as an asset class in its own right. They do, however, also call out Ethereum and the potential of Ether as a asset class as well, just because of the popularity of DeFi, NFTs, and various other things there, and they think that this dominance could continue to grow. Todd Morley, the co-founder and former chief executive of the financial services firm Guggenheim Partners, is planning to build a blockchain tower in mid-Manhattan. Apparently, this tower is going to provide a wireless network aiming to improve access to digital ledgers. What's not fully clear is exactly how this does make it easier to access a blockchain, given that typically all you require is an internet connection. I'm curious to see how this one will actually pan out there. But the idea anyway is that it becomes, makes access more ubiquitous to the technology. So it'll be an interesting one to watch. Todd Morley, though, has also shared his thoughts on what the future looks like as well, believing that Ethereum could actually play a central role because of its much higher utility than Bitcoin. He has a new venture called Overline Network, which is building this skyscraper we just mentioned, but it's also planning to host the world's largest NFT museum. With the Overline Network, he's very focused on interoperability with that to help avoid some of the challenges that people face, such as these high gas fees for running on networks such as Ethereum. The other thing he called out too was that the Ethereum community of developers is growing at a far greater rate than on any other blockchain. So it's again another key person putting their weight behind the platform. Circle, the provider of the stablecoin USDC, have raised close to $440 million funding round. They've got a number of major backers for this, including Fidelity Management and Research, Intersection FinTech Ventures, Atlas Digital Currency Group, as well as Michael J. Price and Friends. There's currently $22 billion of USDC in circulation, according to both Circle and CoinGecko. And there's a number of services, including Dapper Labs' NBA Top Shots, that are actually making use of it. So unlike Tether with the USDT, USDC has come under less sort of criticism about the reserves that they hold, and they're really positioning themselves as trying to be the most widely supported, but also closest thing there is to a fully regulated, decentralized US dollar as well. Mark Cuban has invested in the Ethereum Layer 2 protocol, Polygon. Matic, the underlying token, shot up off the back of this. We've spoken on numerous occasions, almost every week it comes up, the subject of scaling on Ethereum, and Polygon is certainly one of the leading platforms at the moment that we're seeing a number of protocols starting to actually open up support for as well. Mark Cuban specifically called out how he's using it and integrating it with one of his platforms, Lazy.com, which is a company that allows people to easily display their NFT purchases. Back in Bitcoin news, Elon Musk tweeted that he'd spoken with the North American Bitcoin miners and they were committed to publish current and renewable energy usage and asking miners to do so. Of course, it being Elon Musk tweeting this, it had significant effect on the crypto markets, and suddenly the price of Bitcoin shot off the back of it. Michael Saylor, though, around the same time as well, disclosed that he had hosted a meeting between Elon Musk and executives from a number of Bitcoin miners in North America, including Argo, Hive, Marathon, Riot, and Hut 8. They said that they'd agreed to form a Bitcoin Mining Council to provide greater transparency around sustainable energy usage for the Bitcoin network. So again, we'll see how this fascinating space continues to evolve. The crypto derivatives provider Opium and the DeFi platform UMA are working together to provide insurance products for the SpaceX flights. This will see Opium plug into UMA's optimistic oracle to produce financial derivatives hedging risks related to SpaceX flights. They basically work as binary options contracts and allowing people to purchase insurance against a failed launch of SpaceX. Insurance is already offered by SpaceX at about 5% of the value of the payload, and Opium and UMA are attempting to compete with that. They really they see this as being an opportunity to demonstrate efficiencies that potentially DeFi can provide for making insurance cheaper. Also related to SpaceX, you have SpaceChain, who are deploying a commercial blockchain solution. What they're saying is that they're planning on launching Ethereum nodes in space, which brings physical security when transacting in crypto assets. SpaceChain is expecting to send a number of commercial services into orbit next month. The first one of these is slated for June the 3rd, and it will see SpaceChain Space Node launched and ultimately installed at the International Space Station, which will act as a way of demonstrating the Ethereum technology can run on the International Space Station. Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, has published a lengthy paper about the limits to blockchain scalability to help address some of the claims that have been made by Elon Musk, who's spoken about trying to speed it up significantly in the context of Dogecoin previously. Vitalik really calls out the specifics here and goes into details and around the sharding and the limitations associated with all of this. Apple is also on the hunt now for someone with cryptocurrency experience in an alternative payments business development role. The job posting indicates that Apple remains interested in cryptocurrencies, at least in the context of alternative payment methods. They're looking for someone who's got significant experience in this space to lead the company's alternative payments partnerships. PayPal is going to be adding support for third-party crypto wallets. We've spoken previously about how PayPal is embracing cryptocurrency support, and now what they want to do is actually add support so that people can withdraw funds directly from their PayPal wallets to their crypto wallets. They haven't said exactly when this will be happening, but it should be quite soon. It's likely that they'll roll it out regionally if their previous kind of feature updates are anything to go by. Also, Coinbase announced something called Fact Check this week on their blog. The idea here is that they're actually going to have a section on their blog for addressing misinformation and mischaracteristics about Coinbase or crypto that's being shared around the world. Of course, one of the problems that everyone suffers with is the impact of fake news, but certainly in the world of crypto, you have Twitter being like a real echo chamber for certain sentiment and views on the market, and so Coinbase here clearly want to dispel some of the myths that are associated with it. So some of the topics that they're addressing initially include addressing misinformation about the effect Bitcoin mining has on the environment, misinformation that spreads on social media, and then what's been said in government and industry about illicit activity in crypto. In the world of CBDCs, there's been more big announcements this week, and it's just continuing to gather pace with 4 different jurisdictions being some significant news coming out. Indonesia has announced that they're going to launch a central bank digital currency. They're currently assessing which technology to use for their digital rupiah, but the intent is that once issued, it will be a legal payment instrument in Indonesia alongside banknotes. The central bank doesn't have a timeline yet, though, for when they'll implement this. In Indonesia, the country's transaction frequency on digital banking platforms has risen 60% on an annual basis to more than 570 million transactions in April, while the value of these increased as well significantly alongside this. Cryptocurrencies themselves are banned as a payment method in Indonesia, but it is legal to trade in them, and the government has actually enacted tax legislation for crypto trades. South Korea too have announced that they're going to be kicking off a digital currency experiment in the summer. This is a pilot program looking at a central bank digital currency. The Bank of Korea, South Korea's central bank, has opened up bids to suppliers to be the role of the technology supplier for this. The trial will be conducted in a virtual environment in a couple of stages, and the first one's going to run from August to December 2021. But the key thing to call out here, they don't have any plans to issue its digital currency. This really is just a pilot program looking at the feasibility of it. The South African Reserve Bank as well is launching a retail CBDC feasibility study. They're looking at a general purpose retail central bank digital currency here. The South African Reserve Bank have been kind of one of the pioneers of CBDCs, and that they kicked off the project Coca. Would have been a couple of years ago now, but that was focused on the wholesale CBDC markets. Remembering that there's kind of two parts to CBDC initiatives. One part is the wholesale markets, which is between regulated financial institutions, and then the other part is what's focused on retail, which can impact consumers or individuals directly there. So it's fascinating to see that they're going to be looking at the retail aspect as well. Then finally, Sweden is also moving forward with its e-Corona CBDC. This again is a pilot. They're moving on from only having simulated participants to cooperation with external participants in a test environment. And the experiment will involve participation between Riksbank, Handelsbank, and these are retail bank chains based in Sweden. In the world of crypto, the stablecoin supply has crossed the $100 billion mark. Most of that's been driven by the two main stablecoins, Tether's USDT and Circle's USDC, which we mentioned earlier on. But again, it shows just there's this ever increasing growth and interest in the stablecoin markets. Hedge funds have continued to get more and more exposure to crypto during the past year. According to PwC, 46% of all hedge funds are now investing in the crypto industry via Bitcoin and Ethereum. And this number actually doubled in 2020, going from 2 billion in 2019 to 3.8 billion in 2019. I'd imagine once the figures are there for 2021, that figure is going to have jumped again even more. But the majority of these, more than 90%, are trading in Bitcoin. And then Ethereum, which with 67%, and then the top five, Litecoin, Chainlink, and Polkadot, make up the remainder that were in the survey. Everledger has announced a partnership with product verification source Certain International to enhance the transparency in the mining industry. Everledger has been very well established in the supply chain space for a number of years with their blockchain-based platform. Metals and mining supply chains are notorious for human rights violations and unsustainable practices, and there's a big consumer desire here to understand how minerals are extracted. But this has come, as a relatively recent thing that people have really wanted to see there. So this is a big step forward for the SCI with Everledger to provide more transparency in these very important supply chains. The Dfinity platform, who launched their internet computer earlier on this month, after 5 years of development and over 100 million raised from a number of investors, including Andreessen Horowitz and Polychain Capital, have said that they're putting aside a $200 million fund to help developers build the internet computer. And the idea behind the Dfinity project is that they want to take on the cloud computing market and free the world of its centralized infrastructure there. But this $200 million fund is there really for developers to apply for and companies to apply for who want to build on top of the platform and help them in building out their vision there. It's a fairly common thing with blockchain protocols for them to do this, but certainly the amount of money which they have here is pretty significant, because normally you'll see there might be a fund of tens of millions, but not hundreds of millions as such. Polygon, the Ethereum layer 2 scaling technology, which we touched on earlier with Mark Cuban's investments, they've also announced that they're going to be integrating with Google's BigQuery, which is going to make it much simpler to provide in-depth analytics of the Polygon blockchain data. And one of the things with these protocols is when they emerge is that they're slightly different to what's there already. So people need to take time to familiarize themselves with it. And so the more analytics that are available, the better. Polygon are really trying to help build this vision of being like Ethereum's Internet of Blockchains. And they also announced their SDK as well this week too. So this sort of integrates with Google's technology. Although centralized, it's still very helpful helpful for just building greater understanding of the platform and just having more analytics available for people as well. Moving on to DeFi, Uniswap V3 has flipped the V2 platform on a volume. We mentioned last week how it sounded like this was going to happen soon, and now that it obviously has. Hayden Adams, though, the founder of Uniswap, commented that both are actually earning more daily and weekly fees than Bitcoin miners, which is very significant for people on the platform. Also, Arbitrum, a optimistic roll-up scaling solution for Ethereum, has launched this week. A Uniswap governance forum user has also put forward a proposal suggesting that Uniswap V3 should launch on it too. There was lots of support within the community, but we'll see how it goes. Arbitrum is an optimistic roll-up scaling solution for Ethereum. The DeFi platform FormationFi has joined forces with Polygon to develop a secret dark pool automated market maker. For those of you who are familiar with the world of equity trading, this notion of a dark pool is what's called a liquidity venue, where you can, in effect, where you can trade with other participants, but in a way where you don't have visibility of what assets are in there for, via like a transparent price discovery. And so it's interesting to see these kind of more traditional things from the world of finance bubble over into DeFi. This cross-chain liquidity partnership will run on top of Polygon's Layer 2 solution and support FormationFi's vision for chain agnostic yield farming 2.0. So again, all very very much so like a frontier type technology here, but it's fascinating to see these innovations move forward. The Shark Tank co-host Kevin O'Leary is set to launch a DeFi firm. He's announced that he intends to launch a DeFi investment company called DeFi Ventures. He's the major shareholder, and he has led a 20 million fundraising round. So he's previously shared how he's so interested in the DeFi sector and sees that it's going to play a crucial role in the overall crypto space. In the world of NFTs, Binance has revealed the first batch of creators, as its NFT Marketplace is now scheduled to go live on June the 24th. When it launches, it's going to provide digital collectibles from some of the top personalities, including musicians, digital artists, athletes, and celebrities. They're also accepting applications from individuals to feature their NFTs. In terms of the people involved who are going to be there, and the first slate of creators include Lewis Capaldi, the two-time Brit Award winner, Trevor Jones in esports, team E-Star Pro, and professional football stars Michael Owen and Alphonso Davies. Given how much influence that Binance has just as a trading venue, but also within the world of DeFi, it really does have the potential to be huge when this launch happens later this month, especially given that there is so much interest in NFTs and lowering the barriers to entry for people and firms to actually build on top of it. The blockchain startup ProPeople is planning its first ever auction of a real apartment as a collectible NFT. They have a platform that introduced smart contracts for real estate sales, and now they're pushing the boundaries by auctioning a real apartment as an NFT. It's going to be attached to a one-bedroom apartment in Kiev, Ukraine. The auction itself will happen over a 24-hour period, so we'll see how that goes. The gaming retailer GameStop is building an NFT platform on Ethereum. They've quietly unveiled a new web portal for their NFT platform, and also the Tezos-powered one-off marketplace, which is an NFT platform, is going to be launching, which includes collectibles from current and legacy artists such as Whitney Houston and Quincy Jones. The one-off NFT Marketplace was founded by Quincy Jones and Quincy Jones's production firm, and it will launch in June. Also now, Dapper Labs, their NBA Top Shots NFT platform has crossed the 1 million user mark, which is a huge milestone for them. They've notched over 700 million in total sales in less than a year, and then having this number of users too, it's an incredible figure to see that much traction happening there. Also, a UFO sighting authenticated by the CIA is getting sold as an Ethereum NFT. An NFT frame from the Alien Autopsy film will be auctioned off on Rarible. Buyer will also receive a physical 16mm frame from the original film that was shot in 1947. The frame clearly depicts the autopsy of an extraterrestrial said to have crash landed in Roswell. And for those of you who are watching the X-Files back in the 90s, I'm sure this will strike a chord with you, all of this stuff. Apparently the NFT volume in the market has more than tripled, according to Dapper Radar, with the sales rising from almost 300% from 21,000 per day to 82,000 per day so far in May, although as our stats report this, the numbers have gone down in the last couple of weeks as such, which leads us nicely onto our metrics. So the crypto market cap is up just shy of 10% to 1.56 trillion. The assets locked in DeFi is just over 60 billion, and that's up 16%. In the last 7 days, we've seen NFT sales of just shy of $18 million, which is up 23%. An average price of $787. That's all we have for this week. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to our podcast and our YouTube channel. Links to all items discussed are available in the show notes and at our website weekinblockchain.com. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.